Hey everyone, it's Tara Lynn with Paint, Rinse, Repeat, and today I'm painting this super cute spring owl, and this is a really fun folk art type piece, so it can be very relaxing. Turns out super cute. You can change the colors, you can change the flowers, you can change this up a lot of different ways to make it your own. So I will be super excited to see how yours turns out. Before we begin, I will go over the supply list. I'm creating on a 16 by 20. This is a nice big canvas, but you can create on any size. You've got outlines available for a few different sizes. We are working with acrylic paint, so I'm going to go over my color list with you. I've got a white. I'm not using any black. In most of my paintings I use white and black. Today I'm going to use raw umber for my deeper tones. Raw umber, raw sienna, which is a yellow brown. I've got magenta. I've got red. I've got green, orange, deep yellow, and phthalo blue. So lots of different colors. You can just choose kind of a rainbow of colors to work from if you want to, and it doesn't have to be exactly the same shades of these colors. This can be changed up in a lot of different ways and still look really pretty. So we are working with acrylic paint, so you're going to want water and paper towels to clean off your brushes. You're going to want a plate or a palette to put your paint on. And then as far as brushes go, I most often use small, medium, and large flat brushes and small, medium, and large round brushes. But you can use whatever is easy and convenient for you. We're really just filling in space on this painting. There's no really technical paintbrush techniques or anything like that. And then sometimes I use a heat gun or hair dryer to speed along the process. That's really handy if you paint a lot. If you don't have one available or don't want to drag it out, that's absolutely fine. You can always pause the video. I do like to use YouTube as my method of recording and sharing videos because it allows you to pause, rewind, fast forward, even use the tool to put me on 2 or 3 times the speed if you paint faster than I do. So please feel free, if at any point I'm working too fast, you can slow me down or pause. If I'm working too slow, you can speed me up. That's the beauty of YouTube. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to start by filling in some of these big background colors. I have my outline transferred. Because I'm working on video, I've got it outlined in Sharpie. Sometimes that can be handy if you want to see the outlines through the paint, but sometimes that can make it a little more difficult because you want to hide your outlines. But I do that because I am on camera and I want you to be able to see things very clearly. We are going to start by painting the large pink square, then we're going to paint the orange square, then we're going to paint the blue circle. Those are the first few steps. So to begin with, I'm going to get some white and some magenta on my palette. This one is stuck a little bit. Oh, there we go. All right, and I know I'm going to be using a lot of paint for this, so I'm going to go ahead and get a nice big flat brush. And what I'm going to do here is I want to be heavier on the white than the magenta, and I'm just going to start working some of these colors together. So let's say about 3 parts white to 1 part magenta. Let's see where that gets us. All right, I'm kind of feeling it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this color here and just kind of add that along the canvas, and then I can tap into some white and just really kind of go heavy on these brush strokes. So putting that mixture in there and then tapping in some white. All right, so I started with the left side and I'm just going to work this around. So again, tapping in that mixture, that pink mixture. Oops, a cord popping up there. And then coming back with big, bold brush strokes of white. I'm just going to work my way around. A tip while doing these big bold brush strokes is make sure you're moving your brush in different directions so that they're not all moving in the same direction. And then down here at the bottom, I'm going to finish this here. Now, when I transferred my design, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I shifted it up slightly, so mine ends up looking a little more like a Polaroid where the bottom is fatter. I'm going to go with that. I'm just going to add more flowers down there to even that out. So I did notice I did that, but it's not going to stop me from making something pretty. So now at this point you can paint the sides of your canvas if you want to. I'm going to wait till the end just because I don't want to make a mess on my desk, but you can do that at any point. So right now I've got this really kind of choppy, brush strokey pink background. And I'm going to reach for a little bit of red. And so I am going to take this color that I just had, and I need to remix some of it. So it was mostly white, 3 parts white to about 1 part of that magenta. And then I'm going to add a pinch of red just to change that tone slightly. So this is still going to be pink, it's just going to be a slightly different tune. Going to make it more warm. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take a second brush. So I'm going to use 2 brushes for this. So I've got my big flat brush in this redder tone, and I'm going to go around this outline or the line, you know, the box all the way around. I'm going to put that redder tone in and then just kind of blend that out. I'm going to do it twice on each edge. And I actually decided just to stick with the paintbrush instead of using two. I think it makes it a little easier to carry that color over. And the idea here is just to have a clean outline, but also to blend some of that color a little bit outwards into that magenta. Because making a red with pink is different than magenta. Magenta is actually a true primary where red is not. And so it just gives a different color pink there. All right. So that is our pink box. Easy peasy. It's actually not super easy, but really at the end of the day, what we want is the magenta and pink all the way around the edge. And then we want to blend around the box here that redder tone pink, okay? However you want to do that is fine. If you just want to mix some in, you can do that as well. Lots of different ways to do this. All right, I am going to clean off this brush, and then we're going to move into the orangey tone. All right, so for the orange, we're going to mix some yellow in here. So I've got a deep yellow. And to get this orangey tone, I am going to mix 2 parts of the yellow with about 1 part red and 1 part white. So it's going to be a mixed color here. Let me move that down a bit. I'm not using my orange right out of the tube at this point in the game. All right, so I'm going to mix some yellow, about 1 part of that white, and then some red. This is going to make kind of a creamsicle-like orange, if I can get the mixture right. There we go. All right, so this is what I'm working with here. And what I'm going to do is similar to last time. I might add just a pinch more white in there. Is I am going to tap this all around my orange area. And then I'm going to go for some white and just add some really chunky brush strokes in there. Now with this, I don't have to be super careful with the line with my moon and the owl, but I do want to be careful with that clean line I have with the outside because that part's pretty finished and I don't want to wreck that pink line. All right, once you get it fully covered, you can just kind of see where you might need some extra texture and brush strokes and just kind of add those in. And then I'm going to get a pinch of orange on my palette, most of which we will use later. But I'm going to mix a little orange in here. So orange, and I'm mixing it with that mixture I just used for that background. And then I'm going to go around the outline of the owl and the moon. And I'm just going to do this twice to make sure I'm covering up my deep dark outline. It's kind of up to you how much of this halo you add around this guy. There we go. All right, now at this point in the game, I don't want my orange to mix with my blue. I'm going to put blue in this moon behind the owl. So I am going to zap it with my heat gun. So you can use a hairdryer if you've got one. You can just wait a couple moments if you need to, but I'm going to go ahead and dry mine. All right. The reason why I wanted to dry that is because blue, while pink and orange play well together, they're on the same side of the color spectrum. Blue and orange do not. They are complementary colors, which means they look great next to each other, but when they mix, they kind of make a muddy brown. So that's why I did not want to mix those. So I'm going to clean off my brush, and we're going to do the same process with some blue. And just an artist tip. So if you're ever worried about dirty paint water, most of the time it doesn't matter if your water is dirty, so long as your brush gets dried afterwards. Sometimes there can be leftover color in there, but most of the time if you dry it off really well, you don't have to worry about that. All right, so for the halo back here, I'm going to mix a little bit of blue with some white, heavier on the white. Same thing like we did with the other colors. And so again, I'm going to add this mixture and then come in with some white and get some big brush strokes going on in there. Again, keep the outline by the orange nice and clean, but you can be a little more flexible with the outline by the owl. All right, one thing I am going to do is with this blue before I move on is I'm going to get a little white and just make sure kind of the outline is a little lighter of the moon. So yes, I know I already blended white in there, blending a little more just around the edges. And then I'm going to take a tinge of this blue and darken the color. I don't want to use straight blue, but I do want this to be a little darker. And then I'm going to mix a little bit of this darker color kind of closer so that the halo of that moon is darker, close to the owl. All right, I'm going to wash up my brush. We've got the first couple steps of the background done. Pretty happy with that. We are going to mix up some color and start filling in this owl. And so a majority of the owl we're going to use white, but we're going to tint that white, and that's the mixture we're going to make. So I'm going to clean off my brush or get another nice clean brush. And so for this guy, we're going to use white later, but I need yellow and raw sienna on my palette. So raw sienna is this yellowish brown. And so I'm going to put some of that on my palette. And what I want is a little more raw sienna than yellow. So I've got some yellow here. I'm going to do like 2 big dollops of this and pull some of this yellow over. And let's see what that gets us. You just want a nice yellowish brown mixture. So we're kind of taking that deep yellow and just really making it deeper. All right, I'm going to wipe off my brush, but I am not going to clean that brush, okay? So it's wiped off. It's still got that dirty yellowy brown in there. And what I'm going to do is paint the owl's body white. And then while the paint is still wet, I'm going to use this mix to paint the outer edge of the owl's face, his neck, the edges of each wing, so over here, and the feather lines. And so that's going to give him some texture and just a hint of color where we want it. So I'm going to start here. Now you do, if you went in that owl, you do want that blue to be dry. So by using this dirty brush, it gives him a little bit of that yellowy brown tinge, but not too bad, right? Just a little hint of color because we're using a dirty brush. And that can be a really nice trick when you need just a really pale, color. And so for this step, I'm going to try to move kind of quickly because I do want this white to stay wet. And with this, I am paying attention to the outline of the owl. I don't want him to be messy around the edges. All right, so now that I've got my layer of white on here, what I'm going to do is use the same, going to drop that brush. Oh my goodness, paint everywhere. All right, I'm going to use that same brush and the mix that we made with our brownish yellow, and I'm going to start adding this tone and blending it in. So I'm going to go around his face. And then you can kind of use that brush, and the white paint is still wet, so we're just blending that out a little bit, kind of creating a shadow into that white paint. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing so I did the face. You can pull down a little bit into the neck if you want to. Little shadow. Then we're going to do the edges of the wing. So there's one wing. Here's the other one. All right, and then in each wing we've just got some abstract feather lines, so just going to put some of those in there and just kind of brush those out. To create some depth. All right, so that's how we do the shadowing on this guy. And before I move on, I'm going to take this dirty brush, and I can see a little bit of blue in my owl. So just going to add another coat of this dirty white where I can see that blue. You may not have to do that. That's just my painting. All right, so we've got some shadowing on this guy. Now we need to work on his face. So I'm going to take this mixture that I have here, and I'm going to take white, let's say 2 parts white and a little bit of this mixture. So we're really going to lighten this up, this yellowy brown. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is just add a little bit across the top, a little bit on his cheeks. Then I'm going to wipe off my brush again. So I've got a dirty brush. Not going to rinse it, just going to wipe it. And then I'm going to take this white and kind of blend this out. And so this technique is called wet on wet. That's when we're blending wet paint right on the canvas with other wet paint. All right, so there's the shadowing on the face there. All right, Rue, what are we doing now? I'm gonna go, let's see, I want to go smaller. I'm gonna get another flat brush, just kind of a medium-sized flat brush, and we're gonna add some pinkness to his face, I guess is the best way to put it. So I'm gonna mix a little bit of white with some red, and so mostly I want this to be pink. So I'm going to mix mostly white with just a pinch of that red. And that'll give us a little pink tone. Let's see. And so with this, what I'm going to do is paint the blush area under the owl's eyes. So there's a little kind of blushing going on up here. And then there's a little blushing on either side of the beak as well. So what I'm going to do is I've got this nice strong blush on the eyes. I'm going to pull that down to the beak, because owls have kind of a very sharp line there that follows from the eyes to the beak. And then just kind of blending this a little bit upward and outward from that beak there. And we're mixing into the wet paint, so just mixing right on that palette, or right on that canvas, I guess I should say. And I'm just going in with a second coat kind of right underneath that eye just to brighten it a little bit. I want that to be the strongest area of that pink. All right, now I'm going to switch to a round brush. We're going to make a kind of a brownish tone for the nose and the actual darkness of the eye. And so for that, I'm going to get out my raw umber. This is brown with a black tone to it. And so this mixture is going to be mostly raw umber. So let's say kind of 2 parts of that with a tiny pinch of white, maybe 2 pinches. Let's say 2 parts of the raw umber to 1 part white. We want it to be dark, but not too dark. All right, so I'm going to take this color, and this is where I'm going to use my round brush to get a nice fine line for the eye. And then I'm going to do the left side of the beak. That's going to kind of be our shadowy side. So this will be the darker. There we go. And then what I'm going to do is take this same mixture and I'm going to add a dollop of white in there and really lighten that up. And that's going to be the right side of the beak. All right, now if you want to darken the outline around this guy's face, you can do that. So I might take a little bit of this mix that I have with the raw umber and mix it with a little bit of my raw sienna. Really, I just want kind of a deeper yellow brown. And I'm going to just kind of create a sketchy outline. And what I mean by that is it doesn't have to be completely touching. It doesn't have to be a full, like, clean outline. Just a broken outline will just give this a little more clean effect here. And if you want to, you can add some shadowing around the wing, a little bit with those feathers. Broken lines, you know, this is just kind of whimsical and fun. So just adding a little level of depth by adding some more color. And then from here on out, we're kind of doing some doodly stuff, which is super fun. All right, so to paint the daisy petals, so on the outline there were some dots, and those dots correspond to where we've got some daisy petals, or daisies. And so those are just, when we go to sketch those in, there is a center, and then we're just going to pull some lines around that. So we have this raw umber and white mixture over here that created just kind of a light brown, a light black brown. So I'm going to mix a little more of this so that I've got plenty. All right, and so with this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull the lines around the flowers and kind of plan these out. And they don't all have to be exactly the same. You can have as many or as few petals on these flowers as you want. They can overlap. Some can be longer, some can be shorter. Don't overthink it, just have fun with it. All right, I've got lots of little daisies on there. Kind of loving it. So next I'm going to use some white to add the the lightness, the color to the daisies. They are all white, but I want to leave this darker color around the edges. So if you've got a smaller round brush, that might make it a little easier to use a smaller brush. So I use kind of a big brush for this one. I'm going to use a slightly smaller one. That'll help me keep the line a little smaller, and I'll see some of this darker color around the edges. So with this, I'm just going to take some white and I'm going to go back over every one of these petals with a smaller white line. And that gives it kind of just a shadowy outlined effect, which I think is kind of cool. Now you do have the option, if you want to go over the white twice if you don't have good opacity, if you can see too much of that brown through it, but I really like how it looks with just one pass, so I'm going to leave that be. And I'm going to do the center of the flowers with some raw umber, maybe a tinge of white, lighten it a little, but we can have the center of those flowers be on the dark side. I'm just going to come through and paint the center of those daisies. Just a little circle. Love it. All right, the final steps that we have left to do is the flowery greenery that goes along the edges. And then also I'm going to add a little movement around the moon, and that's all we have. Let's see. I need some green. I'm going to put some green on my palette. I'm running out of room here. That's okay. Some of this has dried. If you ever run out of room on your palette, if you've got some dry colors, you can just go right over the top. So let's see. I'm going to use this same round brush, nice small round. And I'm going to use some green, some raw umber, equal parts of those, mix them together, and then I'm going to add a little bit of white. So this makes kind of a brownish green. And then I'm going to mix a little white in there and lighten it. So there we go. What I'm going to do here is actually, you know what, I'm going to start at the top so I'm not putting my arm down here into paint. I am going to pull these lines for the greenery. And then everywhere that I've got these little buds or these little stems poking off at the end, I'm going to just put kind of a round shape. Like a little round leaf. And of course, as you paint these in there, you can certainly make them kind of in your own style. The important part is just to keep all of these leafy embellishments in the same style. So you don't have to do them exactly like I do them. You can always change them up a little bit. You just want them all to be similar to get that same effect. And so I'm not mixing any new colors here. I just ran out, so I'm going to do the same color, equal parts green and raw umber. And drop my paintbrush. Seem to be doing that a lot today. I'm going to pause this video for a second and I'll be right back. All right, I know that was just a tiny second for you, but when I dropped my paintbrush, I had green paint all the way down my pants. So I needed to clean that up. All right, so equal parts brown and green, and then a pinch of white to lighten that up. There we go. Got plenty of that color. Too much on my brush, but here we go. We just continue around and around with these little lines. Each stem has got 3 little green leaves on each side and 1 in the middle. Now, I had mentioned when I first started that I've got a little extra space here at the bottom, and so this is kind of me going off script here, but I'm going to add just a little extra stem on part of these to give me a little more room down here. And this is me just improvising, so don't feel like if things are not exactly the same that you've messed up. Sometimes you can just go with it, and that's okay. All right, I am loving this border. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some of this mix that I have, this green, burnt umber, and white mixture. I'm going to move it over somewhere else on my palette. Now, using what I have on my plate, I want to add a little bit of yellow to this color. I've got a lot of this mixture, this deep yellow raw sienna mixture. So I'm going to add a little bit of that in there and see what that does. Basically, I just kind of want a lighter version of what I have. Little white. You can always just pull some yellow if you've got yellow left over. But I kind of like this mossy color. Let's see. What we're going to do is just add a little highlight to these stems. So however you want to mix up a lighter shade of green, go ahead and do that. There's no right or wrong. I'm going to take that deep dark mixture that I used for this, add a little yellow, add a little white. Ugh. And then all I'm going to do is go around each little leaf and add that brighter color. I'm not trying to hide the green that I have so much as just add little pinches and fun little dabs of highlight. And that just brightens up some of those colors a little bit. And remember, this is folky and flirty and fun, and it does not have to be exacting. Don't stress about the little details. All right, the last thing I'm going to do here, and I'm going to do this with my round brush, is just add a little bit of fun around that moon. And so I'm going to use red, orange, yellow, white. Again, you can kind of use some of the stuff that's left over on your palette. Add a little yellow. And so just have fun and kind of play with some of these tones, red, orange, yellows, and whites. And then we're just going to pull kind of just some fun marks around the moon. And that is it. That's our finished piece. The last thing you want to do is sign your name, add your own finishing touches if there's any little bits and pieces you want to fix up. Remember, I did not paint the sides of my canvas, so now's the time to do that if you have not done that. And what I want to do is encourage you to share your work. So I would love for you to join my Facebook group. It's right down here. You can type into the address bar facebook.com/groups/paint rinse repeat and share your finished piece there. You can share anything that you create with me along with any originals that you create on your own in there. We've got a really fun community and we would love to cheer you on. Another option for sharing is on any of the socials. You can tag hashtag paint rinse repeat or at paint rinse repeat. And I will see that and I will love it and I will share it. And I love to see what my viewers create. So please share with me whether you share in the group or whether you just tag me on social media. I also want to mention and give a shout out to my supporters. So on Facebook, I have a community of supporters who get to paint with me each and every month. It is $9.99 a month, and you get 4 or 5 lessons included in that. You can participate in as many or as few of those as you want to. You can pick and choose the designs that you like. It's a great value and it will keep you creative. So thank you to all my supporters. Thank you for participating in this spring owl painting. Can't wait to see what you create, and I will see you next time. Have a great day, everyone.